Well, welcome back. We're just getting set up here. Wait a minute. There we go. Well, welcome back to assembling the Mark III. So far we've assembled all the axes, the extruder, put the power supply on, and those kinds of things. And in this step we're going to do the final step, which is step 8, and it is all the electronics, the controller board, and do all the wiring, etc. For this step we're going to need a spiral wrap, the case that the electronics board sits in, which is these two items, and the hinges. Eventually we're going to need a bazillion zip ties and the hardware package, which I'll go ahead and dump out right now, and the NC board controller board, and it is this beautiful piece of IC work. Awesome. Like I said, always keep it either on or in the static bag until you're ready to use it. Set that aside. Two things out of the way. Up here you see the tools you'll be using in this step. Oh, crap. Okay, it looks like everything's up and running. Let's go ahead and get started. Welcome back to the series on building the Mark III Prusa i3 Mark III. This started out as an upgrade from my MK2s. So far in previous videos we've built the frame, built all the various axes, X, Y, and Z axis. We've done the hotbed, we've done the power supply, we've done the LCD, which is on the far end, and we're moving forward with the electronics, the motherboard, and securing all the wires. So for this section we're going to need the case for the electronics. We're going to need nuts and screws package, which I'd already dumped out over there. We need a whole bunch of zip ties, and we're going to need the beautiful motherboard, or NC board as they call it. As always, keep it either on or in the static bag until you're ready to use it. And we're going to need a piece of spiral, and as you already know, that's one of my favorite things. Not. So, moving forward. These are the tools that we need. I've decided to start adding the tools so you can see up front what I'm using. And we'll get started with instructions right now. And get my mouse to work. This section is section 8, I believe. Yep, section 8, electronics assembly. 39 steps, listed as moderate. More than anything, it's just time consuming. But you do want to be very careful to get all the wiring attached to the board correctly, so take your time. And the time suggestion for this segment is unknown. So since I do these live, you'll know how long it takes at the end. First step, hinges. We need 2 M310s. Hello. And a square nut. And the cover door, which is this part. And you want us to put the square nut in right in here. So we'll do that. Well, dropped right in. And it says check for proper alignment. I can visually see that that's properly aligned, so we're good to go. Turn the rear side of the printer towards you. The hole's in blue. And we want to take the two little hinge pieces, they're not very big, and insert a screw into each one. Make sure you do the screw head side, which has got the larger hole. And we're going to put these smaller hinge on the bottom in which two holes? Looks like this one. Yep, that one. Now we sit on here just like so, with the little pointy thing pointing up. Okay. And the next step is you take the door, locate the hinge hole on the bottom and place it in there. Take this peg, place it in here, and attach the screw. Maybe. There we go. Go ahead and snug those down. Moving on, step 7 already. Already doing the spiral wrap thing. This spiral wrap is shorter than this cable, and that was intended. If I can find the end of it. Here we go. There it is. Sometimes you can just do that to get it started. See what I mean by tedious? That's what we're doing, tedious. Round, round. So in the news, Prusa has now brought filament manufacturing in-house. They have their own brand. It's called Prusament. I have not tried any of it, but his tolerances on it are significantly tighter than any other filament on the market. So that's news item 1. News item 2, they've announced that they will be releasing their very own SLA printer, the type that uses resin and light instead of a filament. So it'll be interesting to see how that one progresses. Hello, there we go. It says determine which kind of motherboard you have. There's 2 different kinds, and the only difference between them is these 2 sockets are on a dotted board that offsets them to the side. So you just need, the function's the same, sockets are in different location. So we're going to need this unit. The 6 screws, it says. Six screws and 4 nuts. 4, 5, 6. 4 nuts, and we're about done with those. Install the nuts on the back of this board in these four corners. Using an Allen wrench to get them to sit in their square, because they don't like to go in crooked anyway. Except for that one. Okay, I can already see these are not going to stay put. So, if I can find my blue tape.
Hello, how's the light?
No blue tape. Hello. Okay, we'll use Scotch tape. Just put a little piece of tape over each one and keep it in place. Not in the instructions, it's just a thing I do. I'm also real quickly folding over the end of the tape so I have something to grab a hold of. See, that one already popped out. Come on. There we go. Okay, those are in place. Turn it back over and set the board in facing this way. Top of the board, USB connection goes out the top of the case, and the next thing it says is go ahead and put these screws in, so we'll do that. I just start them at first until they're all in place. Tweezers. Get them all started. Then take them down till they just touch the board. You can feel a little resistance. Then give them, half turn more maybe. Not even half turn. And that's it for the board. Next step is these two screws are going to support this board, and it uses slots instead of holes. So we're going to put the screws on ahead of time, then we can just hang the board when they're ready. This side of the printer has quite a few holes on it, so pay attention to the drawings. They'll guide you quite well. Also, these are pretty simple. These the hinge screws and these screws line up with each other. Now, we're doing things ahead of schedule here. Interesting. We're going to take the X-axis motor and plug it into the NC. I don't see labels on this board like I've seen on previous boards. In the late in these instructions, it does have a diagram of the board to refer to. But I think if you, yeah, there's no labeling on here. Follow the instructions and pictures closely, you'll be okay. So we want the X motor, which is this one up here, this cable that you just did the spiral wrap on, and according to the illustration it goes in the very first spot. And there is a indicator on here that this is the X. There's also right here a little tab. That tab goes on the inside of the board because there's a piece right here that it hooks onto. I'll show you. Just push it down until you hear a, well, you might not hear a click, but that's it. And then the next thing I want you to do is go ahead and put the spiral wrap in this little cutout right here. It says leave a little slack. Don't stretch it, don't stretch it tight. Leave it a little slack. So we've done that. Next step is to take these two slots, put it and slide it onto these two screws. I can already see that my x-axis is in the way again. Excuse me, z-axis. Or x. I'm moving the x up along the z. That's what we're doing. Then take these two slots, line them up on these two screws, and just slide it on, like so. And you'll need to get access through this top slot to tighten that screw, and you'll have to look inside to spot the screw. Well, maybe you won't on this one. Yeah, it's behind the board, you can't see it, so you're going to have to hunt around for it. Didn't have too much hunting, I'm in there. Tighten that one down. And then find the bottom one, go in from the underside. And if you're using the wrenches that came, or down wrenches that came with it, this one that came with the kit has a ball end on it, and that ball end allows you to work at an angle. Same with this Allen driver I'm using. Make sure the board's pushed in all the way. Okay. That was step 13. Now we're moving on to so now he wants me to turn this thing on its side. Turn it on the PSU side. Crash! Now we're going to start zip tying these cables in place. This will take a while. There's, like we did in other parts, it already has holes for the cables. Go like that. And this one he wants you to bring through, loop above, hard to see, but above the zip tie. Once you got it in place nice and neatly, go ahead and tighten down the zip tie. and cut off the excess. One warning about zip ties: if you yank on them really hard with the needle nose pliers, you can pinch the wire and even damage it. So just get these good and snug is all you need. Now we want the PSU thermistor wire. By the way, thermistor wire is a new feature for the PSU. It keeps an eye on temperature in the PSU so that you can and it will actually shut it down if things get too hot. I did burn a connection inside my MK2s, and had it had that thermistor, I might not have burned that connection. So there you go. Joseph is very progressive about updating his machines and software and hardware. So if you have any suggestions for him, definitely send him a note, because he will do something about it in future editions. Hello. Okay. I'm making sure that the power cables, which are hidden under here, are low enough that they won't be rubbing on the Y rods here. So, and once that's in place, just a little tug and snip it off. Next.
Yeah, she seemed to be yesterday as well, so.
I'm going to pick up this one, which I tied aside earlier just to keep it out of my way.
You take care, right?
Another set of cables goes here. Well, I just discovered my mic was off the whole time, so I'll go back and voice over the previous section so you see what I did. Catching up. Insert the Y-axis motor into the bundle. Push cable slightly to zip tie and tighten it so it's snug. On wire. Be careful not to over tighten. It's a me thing. There we go. Again, you want to leave a slight amount of looseness here so there's no strain on the wire. And yes, I tightened it with my hand instead of, what are those called? Zip ties. Oh look, I left one out. This time make sure I got all the wires that are coming from below and the new wire. Put the stupid thing in backwards. I have to turn it around. There we go. Okay, this will go this way. Did you leave? The end.
I'm leaving.
Uh-oh. Now we're going to grab the LCD cables. Check my image real quick to see if you can see what I'm going to do. And it looks like you'll be able to sort of see. Okay. What we need to do here is I am going to gently turn this all the way up so I can see what I'm doing. So it's resting on the PSU and on my camera cable. Tuck these out of the way temporarily. And what's this? To stuff these cables in this slot on the extruded. And so we'll do that. And again, it says make sure you leave a little slack. You don't want to stretch them tight like that. You want a little bit of slack. And if you do kind of a fold like that, you can get them started. And then just press them in. Then you just press them in. Then kind of reverse that fold right there. Hard to see, and stuff that fold in. Then these two cables come out and go up and over and through this notch in the frame right here. Moving on. Another zip tie. Can anybody see what I'm doing? Barely. Another zip tie location is right here. Move these cables out a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. There we go. Then we're going to lay these cables across there, and that would serve the purpose of holding the LCD cables in place. Now we're done that part. Next step, step 20. I gotta figure out where I'm looking. Oh, let's see where I'm looking. Another notch right here. We'll be putting a zip tie there. And through the holes on each side. Then it wants us to lay these two guys through there first, just like so. And then all the rest of the cable, all the rest of these cables also go through that notch. So we'll see if we can get everything coordinated. Go ahead and do the zip tie just a little bit right away so you can maintain control. I just discovered you can't see a thing. Here we go. So it wanted these flat cables in here first, so I'll make sure they're underneath and first. Don't know how crucial that is, but let's just assume it's crucial. Cut off the excess, and now we've done what we were asked to do there. Next stage. It says not to over tighten this particular one because you can damage these LCD cables, so I think we're okay. Okay, we're done organizing cables. Next step is to attach everything to the NC board. And I'm not sure how we're going to do camera wise here. I guess we'll do that. Because I need to be able to see also. What if I bring this camera down here? Maybe hang it from the frame. Put it between the belts and do it like this. No, I don't want to stay there. What if I do this? Doesn't want to focus that close, so that's not going to work. That's not going to work. Yeah, we're going to bag that idea. Maybe yeah. Okay, you're gonna just have to take my word that I'm doing it as per the instructions and following the pictures very closely, which is the easiest thing to do anyway. What I'm doing is loosening the power screws because they're probably snug. They are. But I may not have to. Let's move ahead. Starting with a new zip tie, which goes in here and out down here. There it is. Oops, lost it. There it is. Okay. This one does not have a special place for the nylon stiffener that's in here. It just says stick it in. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Just stick this in carefully. It's easier if you flatten the wires out and feed them in, you know, more or less one at a time. Then stick it through. Stick a little bit of the, if you can get to go, of the spiral wrap into the case, just a little bit. Except that it don't want to cooperate. There we go. I twisted it to make it a pinch tighter. That did the trick. Well, except for one little detail. That's wrong wiring for this slot. Do as I say, don't do as I do. In this case, don't do it either. It wanted the heat bed cables, which are this one in my case. And it comes off of the heat bed, obviously. So we need a new zip tie. Well, at least it was a little more coordinated that time. And it shows a little bit of the cable sticking in like that. A little bit of sheath sticking into the box. Okay. I was just rereading. If you have a kit that has the spiral wrap here instead of the cloth, you'll also have a nylon stiffener in there, and there's a special hole for that in this case, but I have a newer one, so that doesn't apply. A, B, B. Okay, this part it says is crucial for grabbing the power wires, which are these guys right here. The two first connectors. Oh, wait a minute. Plus, minus, plus. Positive is fully read in my case. Okay. There's your first cable from PSU. This is wired thusly. It's positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative. So we already know how that goes. And the order of which cable pair you put where from the PSU doesn't matter. We'll just grab one and see if we can get started. Yeah, you don't need to loosen these ahead of time. There's plenty of room to get them in there. I'm glad to see that these nice screw terminals for these cables, because they're under considerable load. And there's a slight possibility that the cable will be damaged or something in the future, and it's so much easier to just do screw terminals. You know, if you have to replace a cable or something. One power wire done, red, black. Now bring the other power wire in. and it is the second is also positive first. So do that. Attempt to do that. There we go. These do not go directly under the screw head. There is a little, I don't know, guide, if you will, under the screw head, and the wires go underneath that guide. Okay. And the heat bed wires, which are these two, same arrangement. Red first. Which is right here. Just like that. And don't do that. Do not slip with your screwdriver. On a computer build one time I did that and I wasted a motherboard. So don't drop your tools onto the circuit board. Okay, all the high temperature or high power wires are in place. It asks that you go back and review your connections. It should be red, black, red, black, red, black. On some of them, it's not a solid red cable. It is a black cable with a red stripe. Same thing. So now, we're moving ahead a little bit. The Y cable, which is in this mess, is next. That would be this one. Some of the routing right here is up to you. I'd like to just keep them as neat and tidy as I can. That's a Y cable. There are two Z cables. These are motor cables. That was my flashlight. And the Z cables are stacked. There's two connectors one on top of the other. If you take the time to look back and forth between the pictures and what you're doing, you should get this cabling right the first time. Just a gentle tug to make sure that the little clip did its thing. Next we want to take, what are we grabbing? Find a twisted pair of black and white cable from the PSU. That's the thermistor from the PSU. And that is this guy. Whoops, that's not the way I want to go. I'm going to move it up here. There we go. And that okay. PSU black and white cable and connect it to the board, to the connector in the very lowest corner right there. These are also directional. And I believe they are tabs, so they can all go in one way. Yeah, they are. There's a little tab on here, because of that tab, it can only fit in the socket one way. More good news. That one did click. Next one is is. Thermistor from the heated bed. I'm having trouble seeing. There we go. Thermistor from the heated bed goes into the farthest away from you of these 3 sockets. So we'll go ahead and do that. Again, there's a tab, and if you look here, you can now see that notch. So this only goes in one way. Click. Love it when it makes it click. Finally, I will need the next step. Okay. So they want us to take this unit and take the unwrap how much? 1, 2, 3, 2 wraps, 3 wraps. Unwrap 1, 2, 3. Pull the nylon filament out and put those wraps back in place. Oh, I did one too many. Now put the wraps back in place, leaving the nylon filament on the outside. And presto changer, it looks like the picture, sort of. Actually, believe it or not, it don't look like a picture. It wants me to leave. No, I was right the first time. Boy. Let me get this where you guys can see it. I didn't realize it was that bad. You can see a little bit anyway. So that you do one full wrap around and leave it with 2 wraps showing. Okay. Slide the nylon filament into the hole on top, which is right here somewhere. I'm sorry about you seeing the top of my head there. But there's a hole right here. It says slide that in there. And then gently get all the wires, pull this down till you're there. And now you need to get everything back into this big slot back here. And the easiest way to do that is, like I said, one at a time, or a pair at a time. Including part of this wrap if you can. Something like that. There we go. And then continue wrapping the wires, including the nylon. And you will have to hold everything in place with one hand and do the. This is like a four-handed operation. There we go. if I can make it look difficult for you, I will. I don't like the way that turned out. I'm going to backtrack a little bit here. That's better. Okay, I'm going to take one wrap around there and then grab the nylon with the next wrap. Boy, if you have big hands, I'm going to feel sorry for you at this point. There we go. I had to give a little twist on this spiral wrap to make it fit in there better. Once I did that, it stays put on its own. Now it wants me to insert this, which I can see coming. Look at there. That hole printed nicely also. And of course, tighten it down. Next step. Step 30. Boy, does this one get messy. Okay. Extruder wire, which is marked with an E, is the first one we're going to need. If you can, make the wires pass alongside each other rather than wrapping around them, because that would just make things too tight in the long run for you. Oh, I missed a wire. Okay, I'm going to leave it. Extruder, that's the E. And it goes in the last motor slot in the back side here. And that's in. Extruder heater wire number 1. This big heavy duty unit goes in to a rather heavy duty socket right back here, and again it's tabbed, so it only goes in one way. And my flashlight, I can see which way it goes. Kind of tabbed and rounded edges, so it goes in this way only. There we go, just like that. Not getting an awesome view, are you folks? But, like I said, follow the pictures, you'll be okay. And in this case, follow the directions, because they list each cable separately. And if you follow the directions, you'll get them in the right spot. Left hot end fan. Front left fan, which would be this sheathed one, I think. Extruder thermistor. Which is the 3-wire unit. That's this one. Okay. Thinking ahead a little bit here so I can make sure I get the right wires in a decent order. Okay. I have to enlarge the picture. That's another thing you can do is you can enlarge these pictures. Remember that, and you get a better view. And this goes in to the first slot there. It also has a locking tab right next to the heater wires. Next one is the thermistor wire, which is, sometimes these color-coded wires will help you figure out which one's next. And in this case, it has a little red band on it, and that goes in adjacent to the one you just did, if you can see it. I contemplated putting my borescope on my finger at this point, but I figured it'd make you dizzy, so I didn't do it. Red, white, and blue guy, this one, goes in. There's two sets of pins here. It goes on the set closest to the power supply, red wire facing out. And this does not have locking on it, so you have to make sure you put it in the right direction. There you go. A series of wires with a brown one, that's kind of unique, most don't have that, goes into the first slot above the LCD ports right here, just like that. And the yellow what about the yellow? Yellow and green. Oh, there's yellow and green identifier here, and it goes in right above this thermistor right there. It's also notched, so it only goes in one way. At this point, you should double check that what you did matches what's in the diagrams. And now the LCD cables. These cables are specific to which slot they go in. The first number 1 slot, and you're going to be matching it with a cable that has just one black line on it, goes toward the outside case right there, and the one with 2 black marks on it goes on the other side. And I hope that he got these with a notch. He did. Awesome, because you can get them in backwards. Let's see, how do I want to think about this in the future? I think I'll put these over everything else. Okay, this is number 2, which goes into the number 2 slot, which is one in toward the center of the board. And this one is the number 1, and it goes in. Nope, I don't like that. I'm going to put this cable on the outside. And then this one goes in right next to it. Make sure the cables are all the way in. I've been accused of talking too softly a lot, so if you have trouble hearing me, that's what volume control's for. Crank it up. Okay. And if all else fails, these 2 stripes, they're pink or red depending on your point of view, should be toward the top of the printer. So another way to make sure you get them in right. just looking at. Okay, step 32, all they're doing is having you go through and make sure you connected everything in the right place. Finalizing the Rambo cover. I'm not going to do it, but what I normally do with electronics is I will come back in here later and very carefully go through here and organize these wires and maybe even zip tie them a little bit inside the case. Is that a requirement? No. If you want to do it yourself, go right ahead. So, that's a lot of wires to stuff in here. Usually if you give them a slight twist and they'll lay down flat. Kind of like that. What you want to make sure you don't do is pinch any wires. Okay, I got one that doesn't want to cooperate, so we'll see if we can get him to fold back in there better. Put a little crease on him. Okay, Mr. Prusa, these things are taking up some room. Let's see what we can do. With a heavier heater wire up high. So tuck it in. Tuck another wire in behind it. These wires can go down here to the side. This wire, which is the thermistor wire, I can pull up through and tuck in there like so. Then these guys, I hope, can lay in here somehow. Or they'll go, not take up so much vertical space. Let's try that. It's snug. That's putting it mildly. Partly because this is not far enough in. There we go. That'll help. Oh yeah. I was hitting on the twist strap here because I didn't have it pushed in far enough, so which made my zip tie loose. So I'll go through and redo that in just a second. Take the long screw, screw it in the hole here. Find your screwdriver. Did my nut fall out? My nut fell out. Where my nut is? There it is. No pinchy the wires. Nothing like having too much wire and not enough space. There it goes. Now we can tighten it down. Like so. Like I said, I think I'll come back and probably redo some of these wires a little bit. Next step. Mounting rubber feet. If you didn't notice, I'd already taken them off. They keep falling off, and one of them fell down behind my workbench here. I don't know where it is. So I took them off. I'm not going to put them back on now. All that means is you have to lift the printer up before you spin it around. Don't slide it. Talks about spool holders, which go up here. I'm not putting them on at the moment. 38, 39 is... We're done. That is a completed printer. going to show you something real quick here, but you're not going to put it on the printer until you're ready to do some final work. Grab one of the magnetic sheets. I ordered a second one with mine, and I recommend you do the same thing. I have both the textured and the smooth. I'll show you what they look like. This is the smooth. It's coated on both sides with a sheet of PEI, which I just love for printing on, so it can go on either direction. This one is also PEI, but has considerable texture because this is powder coated with PEI. What's really cool about this system, tilt this up, slide it back until those notches line up with the pins in the back, and let go. That sucker's on there. Print on it till it's done. Lift it off. There's little thumbprints right here. You put your thumbs there and lift, and to get your print off that bed, you go like that, and it just pops off. I can't wait to use this. So, pre-flight's next, and that's a whole chapter in itself. Takes maybe an hour to do, and as we go through and you check out all the electronics, it does a self-test and a few other good things, and that's all we got going. So remember, if you like what you see or have any suggestions, you can always put those down below. Like, subscribe to my channel, and hit that little bell icon down below the video on the lower right, and that will give you what will it give you? I know, it'll give you notifications when I go live again, or if I have new videos. Also, I think I've come to a point where I earned one of these, maybe two of these. Till next time.